prospect of more U.S. troops worries Afghans. As Americans, including President Obama's top advisors, tensely debate whether to send more American troops to Afghanistan, the Afghans themselves are having a similar discussion and voicing serious doubts. In bazaars and university corridors across the country, 8 years of war, now going on 9, have left people exhausted and impatient. They are increasingly skeptical that the Taliban can be defeated. Nearly everyone agrees that the Afghan government must negotiate with the insurgents. If more American forces do arrive, many here say they should come to train Afghans to take over the fight, so the foreigners can leave. What have the Americans done in over 8 years? Asked a pharmacist in a market town about 25 miles north of Kabul, expressing a view typical of many here. Americans are saying that with their airplanes, they can see an egg 18 kilometers away, so why can't they see the Taliban, he said. Such sentiments were repeated in conversation after conversation with more than 30 Afghans in Kabul and nearby rural areas, and with local officials in outlying provinces. The comments point to the difficulties that American and Afghan officials face if they choose to add even more foreign troops. Yet the foreign forces are not seen so by Afghans already. They are on the cusp of being regarded as occupiers, with little to show people for their extended presence, fueling wild conspiracies about why they remain here. The feeling is particularly acute in the Pashtun South, but it is spreading to other parts of the country. More American troops could tip the balance of opinion, particularly if they increase civilian casualties and prompt even more Taliban attacks. The grassroots view among Afghans is at odds with those of top Afghan officials, as well as many American military commanders who strongly endorse a full-blown counterinsurgency strategy, including a large troop increase. The supposed aim of sending more troops would be to help secure Afghanistan's biggest cities and towns, to make the population feel safe, and in doing so to show that the foreign presence can bring benefits. So, the question could be, why hasn't this already been accomplished or done? And all this time. So, at the same time, the Americans support the idea of negotiating with moderate members of the Taliban, but would prefer to do so once the insurgency has been weakened, and that in turn may also require even more troops. Daily life continues to be so precarious for many people interviewed, especially those outside Kabul, the capital, that they have come to believe that the United States must want the fighting to go on. In the first days of the war, the Americans defeated the Taliban in just a few days, said a graduate student in the pharmacy school at Kabul University. Now they have more than 60,000 forces, and they cannot defeat them. An analyst at the United States Institute of Peace, who has spent years working in Afghanistan, said the country's mood was shifting. What's changed fairly recently was the confidence of the population as to whether we can actually achieve the job, even with more resources, he said. These doubts do not tally with some surveys, like the poll taken by the International Republican Institute, in which a majority of Afghans appeared to be positive about Americans. However, the security environment in Afghanistan makes it a very difficult place in which to conduct polls, and the survey by the Institute, a pro-democracy group affiliated with the Republican Party, and financed by the American government, was taken in July before the rampant fraud and corruption in the presidential election. Zia Ahmed, a seller of tea kettles and pots, was positive about the current international presence, but dubious about increasing it. Instead of increasing foreign troops, it's better to equip the Afghan National Army and the Afghan police, he said, a view that was shared by almost everyone interviewed. The local army are known in the villages, and they are more useful than foreign troops. A tribal elder in the remote north of Afghanistan said the insurgency had disrupted life for farmers and herders, and he repeated one of a growing number of conspiracy theories about the Americans' intentions. In his version, the Americans were transporting Taliban fighters to the north and dropping them from helicopters at night, on the theory that the Americans wanted more fighting so they could stay in the country. Other versions had the British transporting the insurgents or the Taliban. There is no truth to the accounts, according to American military officials in Kabul. Graduate students at Kabul University were no less suspicious. Those countries that are working with the U.S. and are friends of theirs are Saudi and Pakistan, and those are the same countries the insurgents are coming from, said Abdullah, a graduate student in the Faculty of Islamic Law who, like many Afghans, has only one name. While these notions may seem absurd to Americans, they have added to an increasingly volatile public mood here. A story from American forces burned a Koran in Wardak province brought hundreds of young people into the streets last month to protest the American presence, even though the story was roundly disputed by Afghan and American officials. More rumors, more conspiracy theories. With less certainty about America's continued commitment or involvement, there is a growing sense that the only sure way to peace is through negotiations with the Taliban. They are the sons of this country. It is right to negotiate with the Taliban, said a shopkeeper. This government is Afghan. The Taliban are Afghan. They should build the country together, he said. So once again, it does appear that the Afghanistan war, has gone on just a little bit too long. Like I say, it's taking too long. Too many years have gone by. But NATO forces or American forces have been there. This cannot continue. And, on top of all this, there's something much more going on. In a much bigger picture. Real change must happen. It must happen for the better, rapidly. And these are more signs of the end times, transition days. Transition is ongoing. It's happening. It's a process going on daily, all around the world. And there are all kinds of signs.